How capital sees wholesale deals and why so many of them don't close. Hey, I'm Robin. For the past 3 decades, I've been buying, selling, and funding thousands of real estate deals. And the one thing that I've seen from all angles is I've seen wholesale deals go in and fall off. So what you're going to learn here in this next, probably I'd say 20, 30 minutes we're going to take on this, maybe a little bit quicker if I can get through it, is I want to show you all the things that I've seen go wrong and how to avoid them and how to get your wholesale deals closed. Because this is one of the biggest problems in the real estate industry when new people want to get in and they're taught how to wholesale. And it's great for lenders because someone like me, I get to place money and make money, and I get to buy properties. So I'm going to buy it at a wholesale price and you get to get paid. But the problem is no one really gets it. They never quite teach them how to do it correctly. So that's what I'm hoping to do today. So to begin with, I always look at it like when a bus is going down the street. You have a bus going down the street and you have the wholesaler. And the wholesaler, he's driving the bus. And he's like, hey, Mr. Seller, hop on the bus. I got you. I'm going to sign this contract. Now he's on the bus and the wholesaler's driving. And then, Mr. Realtor, you were on that bus too because you were listing the house. Still going. Title company, hop on board. Great. Hey, Mr. Investor, why don't you get on board? Investor, you get on. Bam. And then, lender, you're going to borrow my investor? Come on board. So now you have the seller, the title company, the realtor, the investor, the lender. You have all these people on the bus, and you have this wholesaler driving. And the wholesaler, the problem doesn't know how to drive, doesn't know where they're going. And the bus crashes or they never get to their destination. So if I'm going to get on that bus, whatever role I'm playing in that, usually it's going to be the buyer or the lender. Those are the two roles I play because I'm not a licensed real estate agent and I don't have a title company. So if I'm getting on that bus, I'll take that wholesaler and I'll say, hey, Mr. Wholesaler, thanks for letting me on the bus. I'm really appreciative of that. Why don't you hop in the back? I'm going to drive the bus so we can get to our destination. And that's what I'm here to do today is show you. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Share screen. And we are going to share right over here. So hopefully this works. Oh, look at that fancy little. What is that fancy background I have there? You guys are getting some sort of Christmas background. Let's try to take that out of there because I don't really want a Christmas background if I can help that. these crazy. There we go. We're going back to this a normal background. That's perfect. All right. So here we go. We're going to talk about, we have the A to B and the B to C transaction. So what that means is when you're hearing this terminology in a real estate transaction, title companies will use this a lot. They'll say it's an A to B, B to C transaction. So what that means is party A equals the seller. Party B equals the buyer / wholesaler. Yeah, excuse my writing here. I'm not a physician, but I write like one. And C is the end buyer. So you have the seller, the buyer wholesaler, and the end buyer. And the goal is this wholesaler, let's say, is trying to buy this property and get it from here to here and make money in between. It's my little weak money sign there. But they make some money in between. But the problem is there's only a few ways to do this. The first way is the way that it really should be done. Party A actually buys the property, buys and closes it. Buying and closing it is really the best way to do it because now you are buying this property, you own this property, and you can do what you want with it. You can move into it, you can rent it, you can sell it, you can burn it to the ground if you want, as long as you don't have a mortgage on it. So whatever you want to do with this thing, it's yours. You have bought it and closed it. But the problem rises because most people getting into the business, they're trying to be a wholesaler, they don't have the funds to buy it. They can't buy it. They might have poor credit. They might not have any money. They might have a job, might have no experience. They might not have the kahunas. They just might be afraid to do it. They might be afraid to close this because they really don't believe in it. And that's usually what it is. A lot of the wholesalers, they'll try wholesaling because they don't know if it's really a good deal, but they're willing to take a gamble, especially if they're gambling with nothing out of their pocket. It's like going to a blackjack table and having no money on the table. And if you win, you get the jackpot. But if you lose, you can walk away without losing anything. That's kind of the mentality of wholesaling. So the problem with that is a couple things. One is most states, and I'm not going to try to recite state law from state to state, they're not cool with that. They're not cool with you acting like an unlicensed real estate professional or unlicensed agent and locking up a contract on a property and just selling it with no skin in the game without having the intent or the ability to close, because it's all about the intent and the ability. Do you have the intent on closing that contract? You want to close it? Or do you have the ability to close it? If you did want to close it, do you actually have the money to close it? And that's where proof of funds come in and so forth and so on. So they're going to need that, the ability and intent to close. So if they do that, they close it, great. If they can't, now they're going to try to assign it. So what assigning it means, let's just play this game that the person, they're buying this house, let's call it for $100,000. They're paying $100,000 for this house. And they're in contract. So being in contract for $100,000, and let's say the value over here, the value is worth $200,000. These are round numbers. I'm just making stuff up because I don't want to get a calculator out. So you're like, wow, I've got a house in contract for $100,000. I'm going to sell it to my in buyer for $200,000. That sounds great. It seems like who wouldn't buy that? If you saw a house for $100,000, it's worth $200,000, you'd trip over yourself to buy it. Now, let's say you don't have the contract on it. Let's say that some wholesaler has the contract for $100,000, and that wholesaler is like, hey, I'll sell it to you for $120,000. So A sells to B for $120,000, and that's a $20,000 assignment fee. So now they have a $20,000 assignment fee. So it's still a great deal. So far, you have the seller getting their $100,000. They're happy. You have the middleman making $20,000 just for signing a piece of paper and selling that piece of paper. They're happy. And you have party C that's buying a $200,000 house for $120,000 with $80,000 equity. And now they're happy. So it seems like everything is great, right? Could be. But now let's talk about where things start falling apart with this scenario where they did not close it, they're assigned the contract. So you have the first problem. Let's pretend they're paying cash. Let's say party C is a cash buyer. Okay? Party C equals all cash. All right? They're all cash. They're paying all cash for this thing. So there's no banks involved. They don't need old Rob here to bring some private capital in. They've got this handled. So with party C coming in, they're paying cash for this property. And now that $20,000 has to be disclosed somewhere. There's two sides to a HUD settlement statement. If you never closed the property, you're going to have the seller side or the buyer side. Someplace this $20,000 has to show up. They have to show this assignment of contract. So either your seller knows about it or your buyer knows about it. But somebody is going to know about this $20,000. So now as a wholesaler, you have to decide, do you think the seller's pretty cool with you making 20 grand for doing nothing, or they're going to try to kill the deal? Or do you think your buyer's pretty cool if you making 20 grand for bringing the deal for doing nothing? Got to figure out that problem. So that has to be disclosed. That's the first problem you're going to run into. Now, the next problem you could run into is you could run into on that same deal, and let's say all things equal, they're paying cash, that $100,000 house was listed for $100,000. So it was listed at $100K. So now, yeah, it's a good deal. You're getting it for $100,000. It's worth $200,000. Now your in buyer comes along, and your in buyer looks at it and says, wow, that's a great deal. I can buy a $200,000 house for $120,000. I am in. Until they look at the MLS and they see that's the multiple listing service, that the home was listed for $100,000. They're like, hold on, I could have bought this for $100,000. Why am I paying $120,000 for it? That doesn't make sense. That kills the deal because it was a listed property and not an off-market property. That buyer is most likely going to see that and have buyer's remorse before they even close. And it could cause them to want to walk away from the deal. Now, I know in your mind, you're thinking, well, it's a good deal. If it's a good deal, it's a good deal. Well, I mean, who cares? $200,000 house. Who cares you're paying $120,000 for it? Psychology from people, they don't want to see that. They don't want to see you making money on them. I know, sounds crazy, but since the mid-90s, I've been doing this. I've done a lot of them, and I can tell you that kills deals. People get crazy about that stuff. So how can you do that? Well, your solution would be to do off-market deals. Buy deals that are off-market, that they are not listed on the MLS. That's one solution. So solution one is non-listed. That would mean for sale by owner, deals that were not ever on the MLS and they were not even for sale and they were just something that you dug up, which we could talk about that another time, how people are finding deals that aren't even for sale to buy. Something that there's no footprint of how much you're actually paying for. That's going to help you. The second thing is close it. Close the A to B first. Do that first. Close it. When you get that house for $100,000, just go ahead and close it up. Now, what this does is putting fear in some people because they're thinking, well, that sounds great, Rob. That you're a capital guy. You can raise this capital and you have the money and you're just going to close this. Where am I getting $100,000? Great question. That is what we do. I mean, we provide capital for deals like that. You would say, hey, Rob, I need $100,000. We're going to give you $100,000. You can close this. Whether you need it for 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year. We're going to figure that out, and we're going to give you the money you need for that. And if not us, there's other people out there. I know I hate to say that we didn't invent the private capital business, but there's other people that do this as well. So you can raise that money, that $100,000. Now, what this does is this gives you 100% complete control. So the first thing you're doing is you're closing with title insurance that you're going to be guaranteed clean, perfected title that has an insurance policy on it, that you know that you can pass this on to someone else. So you know you're getting something good. And what that does is that's kind of like, think of a Carfax when you buy a car. You're going to say, look, they checked out all the previous owners. They checked out for liens. They paid off mortgages. They caught the taxes up, whatever it might be. Bam, you're in the driver's seat now. Now, some states are non-disclosure states. You're not going to see on public records how much you paid for it. Some states, there's a lag time. You might not see it for a while, how much you paid for it. That's okay too. And there's going to be part C is maybe your buyer looks and says, hey, you paid $100,000 for this. Okay, great. But maybe I did something to this. Maybe this isn't the house I bought. Have you thought of that? And there's no way of proving or not proving. Maybe I had to clean it out, fix a furnace, fix electrical, wherever it is. Fine, I paid $100, you're paying $120, but you're in a stronger position because you own it now. Owning it is going to put you in a super strong position, especially if you believe in the deal. Now, going back to the scenario of assigning that contract, and let's say that party C was actually going to borrow the money from someone like me. We're going to lend him that money, him or her, that money to buy this property. So if we're going to lend him the money to buy the property and we say, okay, look, this thing was $100,000 and now we see there's a $20,000 assignment fee on there. As a lender, I'm going to look at this kind of like, I don't want to be at the back end. I could have got this for 100 and now I'm lending 120. And now this $20,000 being pulled out. Everyone's getting paid. No one's been motivated to ever pay me back. So I might either A, make my party C pay that back. They might have to not pay it back, but they might have to pay that assignment fee outside of closing or bring that to closing there. Or I might say, fine, I'm going to finance this thing, but not as an assignment. I would look at it like as a total purchase price on that because I don't want to see the assignment. I know it sounds crazy to not have an assignment, but if it's a total package and I can justify that this is just what it is as a one purchase on that where you already closed it somewhere else, it makes it a little easier for me as an underwriter to say, okay, it's not an assignment fee. This is just the price of the house. And I'm going more off of the value at that point. And being a private lender, we're not looking at title seasoning. And seasoning means how long you held the property and how much you paid for it, justifying the increase. As a private lender, we don't look at that. We look at the equity. And because we've owned so much property and bought and sold so much property, I can understand way beyond what an appraiser or a broker's price opinion is going to be of how much a property would actually bring at a fire sale. So I feel comfortable as an equity lender doing that deal. So in just recapping that then, your A to B, closing it is probably going to be the easiest way using transactional funding. That'd be the best thing. Or your other option, if you are going to do an assignment, you could have party C bring the assignment fee to the table. But remember, you're going to have to do some disclosure in there. Now, let's go back to the next option. It's not really an option in most states. Most places it's illegal to do this, but I'm going to give the option. And it bypasses me, it bypasses banks, it bypasses assignments, does everything. And that is the double close. So A to B and B to C transaction. So you're paying $100, they're paying $120,000 right there. So the title company then would tell party B, hey, party B, you have to bring your $120,000 plus closing costs to close. So here's $124,000 to title. I'm sorry, that would be party. I lied with that. Party C has to bring that. You're only paying, I got those a little bit off there. I'm sorry about that. One of the wrong ones there. You're paying $100,000. And this is your seller right here. Your seller's party A. You're paying $100,000. You're selling it to party C for $124,000. Well, $120,000, you have $4,000 in closing costs and BS and anything else, taxes, whatever it might be. And instead of you bringing that $100,000 to the table, you'll use their $100,000 to pay party A, and then you take the difference and you can use party C's money to close your transaction for party A to B. Most states won't allow you to do that. There's some title companies that will. You can ask them. That's called a double closing. If you can do that, great. If that works for you, amazing. But usually you'd bring in what's called transactional funding, where we would come in and we would fund something of that nature. We would be the ones that came in and we bring the money to the table for the A to B transaction. So I know I did a lot of A to B, B to C's, all this stuff, double closings, but just to recap, just very simply on that, most of these deals are dying because of lack of funding in the A to B transaction. If they have the money, whether it's their money themselves that they're bringing, or they have transactional funding, they have so much more control, the deal is much more likely to stay alive. That's the first thing. Second reason that dies, it's an on-market deal and they're jacking it up on there. They should stay away from on-market deals if they're doing these assignments of contract or trying to double sell a property like that. Try to keep it off-market. Next thing is party C, have them already lined up with a private lender like ourselves. A private lender will be much more forgiving on an assignment of contract wholesale deal than an institutional lender will. If you go to a bank and you start trying to do assignments and so forth, it's going to blow up quickly. So stick with the private lenders. And the best part about it, if you call someone like me, well, at least me, I can't say someone like me because I don't know what everyone's going to do, but me, even if I don't get involved in doing the deal, maybe I'm not the one funding you and you want help structuring it, you can schedule a call with me. I'll jump on. I'll help you put all this together and tell you exactly if it's going to live if it's not going to live, exactly how I would do it, what clauses I would put in the contracts, how I would market it to my buyers, what I would tell my sellers, what I would tell the title company, how you want to speak the lingo and talk the language to everybody. You want to be transparent, you want to be honest, you want to operate within the law. But there's also a way to do that. Think of it as preparing food. Most restaurants, whether you're going to a 5-star restaurant or you're going to a corner diner, are getting their food from one of those food suppliers. The difference is, how do they prepare it? How do they present it? And that's where you're going to do it as a real estate professional. Is how are you preparing and presenting this deal to a lender like myself? So we want to put our money into your deal to get across the finish line so we can make some money, you can make some money, the seller can sell the property. Because at the end of the day, it has to make sense for everyone. Everything is that three-legged stool thing. If we're lending, it has to make sense. The collateral, the borrower, and the exit all have to make sense for all three for it to work, or the stool falls over. As far as the deal goes, the seller, the buyer, and the wholesaler, it has to make sense for everybody, or the stool falls over. Everything is in threes in this business, so keep that in mind. So hopefully that helps. If you have any questions, reach out to me, LTV Funding. And let me tell you something, folks. That's the difference between people that talk about doing deals and people that actually get them closed.